Welcome, everyone, to the Everything Show, episode 648. At least I hope that's the number, because I've been getting it wrong lately. I am your host, Matrix Lord 212, and I'm with Scott. What's up, Scott?
Greetings and salutations.
What's up, Steampunk Star Raisin?
Here in Hollywood, amberstreet.com.
Yeah, after a while, when you do so many of these shows, I think what happened was when you do the Zoom and then you do the Hangout, the Zoom, either one uploads later than the others, and the numbering got all screwed up, and I actually got the numbering wrong on the Everything Show, which has happened before. I do apologize. What we're going to talk about tonight, if this is the 648th episode, I hope, is Wolverine's appearance. Today I saw the trailer where Wolverine's in it.
Yesterday?
Was it yesterday? Yeah, I'm sorry. We're after midnight, so yeah. Yeah, well...
And they updated they also updated the IMDb page. Hugh Jackman is listed as an actor in the movie as a character Wolverine.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a cameo. I think it's a big... Well, it's a little part, but not as little as they made it out to be. It's actually quite bigger, I believe. He probably step in the end.
Yeah.
And defeat Apocalypse, I'm sure.
They were comparing, I forget which site I was watching, but they were comparing the interior of X-Men 2 with the scene of where you see his arm, and they're saying that this could be the same location as in X2.
Okay.
Because the same wall, because the walls had the same pipes running down, the same columns, and it mirrored it. One was, of course, a little darker than the other, but still, they...
We know the timeline's changed. And I guess somehow when he does go back to the future, Professor X has to meld him with the correct memories of the timeline because he did different things.
Yep.
So, it's going to be interesting. And I like that the hint in this movie is the Dark Phoenix.
Yes, which is
the next storyline.
Yeah, Bryan Singer's going to do it right. And Bryan Singer, you could tell with his appreciation of the characters, he was a fan of X-Men. You could tell by the way he directs, the way
said he read them.
Yeah, he read the comics. He said he read the comics as a kid growing up, and he was a fan. And I think that shows you how if you have a fan who's familiar with the material, it'll be great. I mean, that's the reason why X3 was bad, because the person who produced that, was not a fan, wasn't familiar with the material, and so yeah, I felt like the Dark Phoenix saga needed to be done right because it was crap in X3.
I just feel it should be a two-parter.
I will say this much for that X3 one: Jean having that cracked face when she was the Dark Phoenix, that was good. I mean, that was decent. That I will give them heads up nods to.
Right.
But yeah, Bryan Singer, he's a great X-Men director. I hope he continues on X-Men for a while. I mean, that's why X-Men First Class was so great.
That was great.
And I mean, that's why. I mean, he came back. He realized that Valkyrie wasn't working for him, and he came back. And Superman Returns didn't work for him either. But yeah, I mean, so I'm excited for the new X-Men movie. I think it's going to be great, and I like that Nightcrawler's back in it. That was one of the big complaints with X3. There was no explanation why Nightcrawler was gone. He was absent.
Now, technically, not even one line. He's the child of Mystique. That's Mystique's child.
I don't. To be honest, I guess I'm not as big a fan as I thought it was. I don't know who his parents were, but I guess
Mystique is the mother.
Yeah.
But this is the movie version. I don't.
Well, she still should be his mother in the movie version. I mean.
Well, and I like how they're hinting at the fact that Quicksilver is the son of Magneto.
Yeah, that's cool. Which that's the way it really is, even though they changed it in the comics. I don't recognize that change.
Well, I mean, there's the Quicksilver, the Avengers, and then there's the Quicksilver, the X-Men universe. But yeah,
right.
Some people say
I don't recognize the stuff going on in the comics, and neither does the majority of fans. There was a story that came out, like, why is, like, the new fans have a problem with the superheroes that have ethnic backgrounds, and it's not the problem that they're the ethnic backgrounds. It's the problem that they're not making new heroes and villains with that new diversity. You know, you can't destroy the foundation of these characters that have been around for decades and then just say, all right, now the Hulk is Chinese, or Captain America's this, or
I have no problem with that, and here's why. If it's a well-written character, it doesn't really matter what race you change him into.
No, but the problem is that
look at Nick Fury. Look at Nick Fury. Nick Fury was originally a white character, and now he's a black character. He's much more interesting with Samuel Jackson.
But the way they explained that was that he is technically of the same blood, that Nick Fury had a kid, and he's like his father, only he's black. So
well, they kind of rebooted the universe. I don't know, but then there's the Nick Fury of the Ultimate Universe, and then there's Nick Fury of the. But I mean, I don't really think it really matters.
It matters because why do we throw out Bruce Banner and the Hulk? Why is it a different Hulk and a different person? It's not the Hulk if it's not Bruce Banner, and if it's not the Hulk.
You're talking about hypothetical, the Hulk being Chinese.
No, I'm talking about a brand new character that is one of the most brilliant minds on Marvel's Earth. That he's was he Chinese or Japanese?
Well, there's a controversy. There's a controversy with Scarlett Johansson. She's playing a Japanese character.
Yeah, that's completely different than the comics. The comics are flat out switching genders and ethnic groups and it just switch. Basically the problem is that Marvel decided at the same time to change, like, let's say 10 characters at the same time. I think Lady Thor is an interesting character, if that's what you're referring to. No, I'm talking about them making Wolverine a woman, them making Thor a woman, them making.
Well, they've already done that. It's
at the same.
X-23.
But you not understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
They did this change at the same time. So in other words, when Secret Wars was done, we had Wolverine comic where it was X-23. There was there was a, and before Secret Wars there was a female Thor. I understand that, Jane Foster, but they basically, instead of having the Fantastic Four, they have Ms. Marvel, who has is like a super Skrull, basically has the powers of Fantastic Four. That doesn't work with me because I want the Fantastic Four. So if you're going to make Ms. Marvel where she's Muslim, that's fine, but give her different powers. That's not, to me, I don't like that. And there was a
Why
different
would she have
person
different?
because
why would she have to have different powers?
Because what Marvel's basically trying to do is Marvel is trying to have no Fantastic Four comic because they're punishing 20th century. Yeah. They want to have the powers of the Fantastic Four with someone else. Just like they didn't want to have a Deadpool until...
That's political.
Yeah.
That sounds like executives at the top making all those shots.
They killed off Deadpool.
That's unfortunate because...
They killed off Deadpool to try to hurt the movie. It didn't work. And then they decided to bring Deadpool back and fight Gambit, only because they thought there was going to be a Gambit movie. So Marvel tried to cash in, and they canceled the Gambit movie. So, then they made the Magneto, and they made the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver not the children of Magneto, and they didn't even make the mutants anymore. They didn't even make them heroes. They said they were normal human beings that had their bodies altered to be superpowered. So they weren't even humans. They were just enhanced human beings by the high evolutionary, and they didn't say who their father was or their mother. So that is terrible.
Well, I'm mostly okay with the MCU, if that's what you're referring to. But
I'm not. I'm talking about the comics.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know they were doing that. I haven't read the comics lately. I didn't know they were doing that.
Ghost Rider is not a rider, he's a driver. with a car, and I have a problem with that.
And it's a girl now too, isn't it?
I don't know, but I know that they have 2 different Spider-Mans at the same time. They have 3 different Captain Americas at the same time now. Like, in other words, people are like, oh, thanks, Cap, and there's 3 different Captain Americas running around.
Well, what they need to do is they'll probably eventually come up. This sounds like such a mess. I didn't know it was that confusing.
Yeah, Dr. Doom.
They'll probably do what DC did in the 80s. They'll do a Marvel Crisis on Infinite Earths.
They already did that, Secret Wars, basically.
Oh, really? Okay,
Something
they did
like
that. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, they are going...
They rebooted everything.
Basically, what they're going to do is... the Dr. Doom right now is a playboy, 20-year-old... I don't know what the hell happened with that. Iron Man is broke, and with Mary Jane...
I heard about that.
Peter Parker is the richest man almost in the world, basically. And he's a billionaire, and he has a Spider-Mobile, and he has people playing the part of Spider-Man because he's so rich, like the Prowler. Sometimes he's Spider-Man. That's different. But, see, Spider-Man could be believable because he's a genius. So why wouldn't he become rich? Why would he have to always be a photographer working for the Bugle? Why he was a teacher, he was a professor, whatever the hell he was in school. So the character's evolved, but it kind of loses its thing that makes it good because it's not in New York anymore. He's in Japan. He's in here. He speaks Mandarin Chinese. Peter Parker. It's like wow. It's like, but I mean, it is believable you can learn another language, but I mean, it's like, there's a lot of things going on in the comics that are just like not really to me that interesting. I mean, I kind of lost. Yeah, I want to see Spider-Man in New York. I don't want to see Spider-Man in Japan. Yeah. I want to see him fighting. Why can't the covers showcase him fighting a villain like big as life, like the Vulture? Why does it got to be these weird covers with a little? Even if the villain is like a little thing on the screen, it's terrible. I want a nice cover fighting the villains. Like, I don't care about the political story.
I think it was a 70s.
Well, I think
the cover 80s cover with the Hulk. And you see a Hulk laying back and the Rhino running towards him.
Right. That's Steampunk.
Well, comic book readership is way down. It peaked in 1993, and it's still way down from where it used to be. And most people get there because the comic book mythology is my 3rd favorite mythology and my favorite in Star Wars. Most people get introduced to it through readers are the animated movie. Or read the comic books, but they're fans of the characters and they're fans of the general storyline. So I think there's going to be a shake-up, and eventually comic books will have to go through a transition where they'll have to find a way to find a bigger audience, because the Marvel doing the digital comics, and DC does the same thing too, the digital comic is the same price as the printed comic. Why would I want to pay the same price for digital as I do printed?
I mean, I'm talking about the pictures he's showing right now. It just looks...
What? I didn't see that. Show that again. Let me see that.
Yeah, they're showing
They're like making Hulk an anime character.
No, Hulk is basically Japanese.
So he's manga Hulk.
Yeah.
Manga.
Yeah. So I have a problem with.
He looks a little goofy. He looks like Elvis. He's Elvis Hulk.
He's just not interesting to me. It's not. I don't understand why this can't be.
Because they're trying to revitalize their readership. That's what I'm trying to get at.
They're killing the readership. Basically, they're
killing
it.
Now, Grant, okay, if they don't want to kill off Hulk,
you guys want?
Maybe this kid gets infected and he hulks out and all. But let's not. But let's keep the main Hulk.
Yeah.
Well, are you guys familiar with Chris Claremont?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should check out my Chris Claremont interview. I interviewed Chris Claremont last year at Long Beach Comic Expo or Long Beach Comic Con. It was one of those conventions, It was in Long Beach, and we talked about comic book readership, and he was saying, and he still writes for the Nightcrawler comic, but he was saying that in its peak, the comic books have already peaked and declined. He said that in its peak, like in the 60s and 70s of readers.
Yeah, we're basically.
And now a comic is considered successful if it gets 30,000.
We're in the dark age of comics, basically now.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's what So if you're curious about that, what few of you are watching, or the people who are watching, go to amberstreet.com and just do a search for Chris Claremont interview. I interviewed him, and I talked about some of this stuff, how I feel like it's in decline.
Yeah.
And Chris Claremont didn't really have a definitive answer. He told me himself. He said, "I don't have a definitive answer how to turn it around." I think the definitive answer would be to make e-comics super cheap.
Yes.
I mean, you can replicate them for almost nothing. You just copy them. Make them like 50 cents. Why should I have to spend $5 for e-comics? And I feel like I got ripped off. I'd rather buy the printed copy, because at least if I keep it in near mint condition, maybe it'll retain its value. And where if I just buy an e-comic, it's worth nothing.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but you got to make a price difference, because you're not getting the same bang for your buck.
The comics are like $4 now, or more.
Well, some of them are like $4.95, I think. I don't know.
$5. Some of them, yeah. It's just. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm just not into this new Marvel universe.
Lady Thor? I actually think Lady Thor is interesting.
I feel that the story was taken before, because they took off Captain Marvel and they copied it, I feel.
Well, I mean, I'm all for warping distortions of reality, and with the they didn't really do it so much in the movies, but in the comic books, I mean, whoever had the hammer became Thor, and so it would make sense that maybe a woman would pick up the hammer and be worthy.
Well, the whole thing was that I guess someone whispered something into Thor's ear.
Yeah.
That basically tricked him into becoming unworthy. Because it basically, something like, I'm not really sure what the quote was, something towards the effect of, I guess, what makes you think you're going to be the only one to carry the hammer or something, and then I guess it put a thing in his head that he's better than anybody else, and only he should have the hammer, and then he became unworthy, and then all of a sudden he couldn't lift the hammer, and he was going crazy. Like, what the hell? And then something like that. And then it's like
he needed some Thor Viagra.
Somebody outsmarted him, basically. Somebody basically outsmarted him, and and now it's just unfortunate, but now he's not getting the hammer back. So
he's not getting hammered.
He's not getting the hammer back, and the Falcon is still the Falcon with Captain America, so he flies around.
It's stupid as hell. To me, when I think of Falcon, I think of the wings and not the whole.
I don't know why he's got to still be the Falcon and be Captain America. I don't understand that. I mean, what is? I mean, that just, to me, I'm just shaking my head. Like, why does it have to be this way?
They need to give Rogers back his shield and give the Falcon that electronic or hot.
Well, the thing is, I honestly.
Steve Rogers is dead, right?
No, he just last week got his the thing was fixed, the super soldier serum, and he's back to being young again. So he's going to be Captain America again.
Oh, okay, but didn't he get assassinated during Civil War?
That was
2005. 2005 is about the time when I stopped reading.
The Red Skull saved. It's a long story. Somehow the Red Skull saved Captain America. I know what you're gonna say. It's kind of weird, but yeah, whatever. Anyway.
But if they did a reboot of the universe, I guess none of that really matters anyway.
No. Before it was rebooted, he was alive.
Oh, I did read an article that they're going to they were going to talking about doing another Wolverine movie with based on the Old Man Logan
Yep.
series. And I've read some of the. I sporadically would pop into a comic book store and I would just glance through the comics, and I read some of the Old Man Logan comics, and it was a really weird but neat, a really interesting but weird story, where like it took place far in the future, and Red Skull murdered Captain America, but then he took on the mantle of Captain America, but he was like a fascist version of Captain America, and I thought that was interesting because I thought it was like a moral paradigm, a moral parallel to like the politics of the United States, and so go ahead.
So it conned him into killing the rest of the X-Men, and that's why he went off to be by himself, and he was afraid to use his claws anymore.
Yeah, and it was like a post-apocalyptic future. You know, like most people are dead, and you know he's super old. That could be really cool. Old Man Logan for Wolverine 3. I didn't really care for too much the last two Wolverine movies, but maybe this one, if they stick to the Old Man Logan story, that would be something different and something cool and something bizarre. And
supposedly,
supposedly
X-23 appears in Old Man Logan.
Yeah, because they said
I hope so.
They were doing a call to find people within a certain age group and a certain racial.
But if she's going to be in Old Man Logan, then how is she going to appear in the X-Men universe if they're going to do that? Like, isn't she from the future, or what the hell are they going to do with that?
Well, there's talk that what they're going to do is they're going to introduce X-23. You know, just like the comic book, she'll be a clone of Wolverine, or like de facto Wolverine's daughter, in the next Wolverine movie, and then she'll appear as a replacement for Wolverine in the future X-Men movies.
But that doesn't make any sense if Old Man Logan's 100 year, 200 years in the future, and then she's from the future. So how is she going to be in the past?
No. I mean, no. It depends on you're taking from a linear standpoint. If you're thinking from a non-linear standpoint, it makes sense. Non-linear space-time. And all space-time anyway is non-linear. But the part of the movie could take place in the past, and then most of the movie could take place in the future.
I see.
She could have a cameo in the past part, which would be contemporary day, and then most of the movie could take. This is why it could be so interesting, because you'd be free to do anything.
Right.
If the movie takes place like 200 years in the future, it's so far removed from current time events of the current X-Men movies that you could do anything because it's so far in the future. And but you could have a fraction of it in the past.
Right.
It's a tactic used in postmodern literature. In postmodern literature, you break up the plot points in a non-linear time fashion, and it's up to you, the viewer, to put the puzzle pieces together. But I mean, they don't have to do it that chaotic, but you can have part of it. Like I said, that would be a possible explanation, I think.
Right. Okay. All right, and on that note, that's it for the heroes and all the stuff that's going on with the comic books and the movies. We'll be back tomorrow because it is getting late, so I got to go to work. So
yeah, I look forward to Civil War. Civil War looks like it might be good.
Yeah. All right, guys. More tomorrow. Take care. Bye for now.
Show.